Smash and Splash has made huge strides in growth since its first iteration back in 2015, from a fun regional at a water park to one of Melee's biggest majors of the year that just happens to be at a water park. This growth and prestige can easily be seen by looking at how the attendance numbers have risen over the last 4 entries in the series, and by taking a look at the prestige of the players who finished top 3 in the last 4 entries. But what's most important is what happens this weekend, so to get you prepared for yet another exciting Smash and Splash, let's take a look at the storylines, matchups, and players you should be looking out for this weekend in Wisconsin. As always, let's start by talking about which players have a shot at actually taking home the gold at the event. There's nothing new to be said about how fantastic and consistent of a player Hungrybox is. However, what's new to the story this summer is how close Mango is at his heels to steal away the #1 spot after his less than stellar Get On My Level. But the seeding at Smash and Splash has teed up the perfect opportunity for Hungrybox to bolster his resume with another first place finish. His 3 biggest threats, Leffen, Zane, and Wizrobe, are all on the other side of the bracket, so if Hungrybox, Plup, or Mango don't get upset, he should be facing off exclusively against players he's won his last sets against. So if everything goes as projected, Hungrybox should be collecting his 3rd Smash and Splash belt this weekend. But Mango has always been the antithesis of expected his entire Melee career. His clean victory at Gommel and his great run at Pound came as a welcome surprise to many in the Melee community who were starting to wonder if Mango's days of being a contender for the best in the world were behind him. A win at Smash and Splash most likely won't immediately grant Mango the title of the #1 player in the world, but it would almost certainly set him up to be the #1 seed at Summit, which isn't too bad of a constellation prize. To do so, he's going to need to prove that his loss to Amsa at Genesis earlier this year was just a fluke, bring that same fire he brought against Leffen at Gommel where he mercilessly 4-stocked him, and most importantly, he's almost certainly going to have to beat Hungrybox. For Mango, Smash and Splash has the potential to serve as a stark reminder to fans and competitors alike that he should never be slept on. Leffen is not only a weird player to rank so far this year because of his focus on Ultimate, but he's also a player whose potential is hard to gauge. Is he rusty because he lost to Axe at Gommel, or is he back and better than ever because he beat Hungrybox 3-0 at the same event? Well, Smash and Splash will hopefully give us a better read on where exactly his skill level is currently, and if he should also be in the conversation for 2019's best player. He's got a pretty clean road of Dreffen, Fiction, and Wizrobe to get to Winners Finals to face off with Mango, so we'll most likely get a handful more of sets of him facing off with top talent to get a better read on where he currently is skill-wise. A Leffen win at Smash and Splash is totally possible, and with it, the shape of top-level Melee would get a whole lot more interesting than it already is. In the tier below these 3 for potential Smash and Splash winners, we have Plum and Zane, who projected the face-off in winners quarters, which means one will move on the face-off against Hungrybox, and one will drop into a loser's bracket filled with killers. Plup should cleanly be able to take care of Zane as he recently did at Pound, but the concerning part of his bracket comes after. He's on the opposite side of the bracket of Leffen, which means he's going to have to beat Hungrybox and or Mango to take the tournament, which is a frightening prospect for how disappointing of a performance he had at Gommel. So the story for Plup this weekend is to prove that Gommel was a one-off bad event, and his Pound and Genesis performances are more indicative of the kind of player we should expect him to be this year. On the flip side, Zane would be ecstatic to meet up with Hungrybox in bracket, but to see him he's going to have to beat Plup in winners, or a handful of players he's unfavored against in losers, such as Wizrobe, S2J, Leffen, or Mango. To keep it short, Zane's not going to be able to take home first without upsetting Plup, or getting some amazing bracket luck in losers while playing out of his mind. So more realistically, what you should be looking out for from Zane in Wisconsin is to prove that he can turn around his inconsistent record against at least one of the players that have historically proven to be roadblocks for him. And with that, we wrap up our first segment discussing which of these 5 guys will take home the gold this weekend. And before we go on to talking about 2 groups of players that you should be keeping your eyes out for, let's try out a new segment where we highlight 5 of the most interesting projected matchups that you should be keeping your eyes out for if they end up happening. According to Tafo Stats, SFAT and Toussaint have never faced off in a tournament setting before, which makes this an interesting match in its own regard, but SFAT has faltered in the recent past in the Puff matchup, most notably at Super Smash Con 2018, where he finished 33rd, losing to Jerry and 42nd. He's got a 3-2 lifetime record against the active mid-level Puff mains, and won his most recent set against Michael 3-0, so he's for sure still the favorite, but Toussaint could very easily steal this set away from SFAT. I don't think anyone in their right mind would call the last set that Michael and Bananas played exciting, as it took the phrase defensive play to a whole nother level. so I doubt their set will be streamed, but this will be an interesting set to keep your eyes out for posts on Twitter and Reddit about, to see if these two degenerates decide to induct another set into the Melee Hall of Infamy. On the complete opposite end of that lethargic set is KJH vs Westballs, two immensely technical players playing two of the most technical characters in the game. KJH is seeded to win the set. He did defeat the Red Falco last time they met at Gommel 2018, and he does have a ton of practice playing against Falco at locals against Ginger, so he's the clear favorite by a mile. But even if Westballs isn't able to pull off an upset here, the two will put on a hell of a show. Bladewise over Amza is the biggest upset that I think has a real possibility of happening at Smash and Splash. Bladewise won the last time they met in early 2018, and Amza has continued the struggle against high-level Peaches this year, despite how much he has stepped up his game. So be on the lookout for this potential upset, or to see if Amza has any new tricks prepared to overcome one of Yoshi's more difficult matchups. Lucky vs IBDW is the last match I wanted to highlight for this weekend, because although technically it will be an upset by seed if IBDW wins, he's the clear favorite in my eyes. Later we'll talk more about exactly how great the Summit vote-ins year has been so far, but in regards to his set history against Lucky, he lost two heartbreaking Game 5 sets against him while he was still on the come-up, but his clean 3-1 against him at Full Bloom earlier this year makes it look like he'll even up their all-time head-to-head at Smash and Splash. But Lucky has been known to pull off some crazy runs out of nowhere, so keep your eyes out for this and the 4 previously mentioned sets this weekend. And before we end off this video, let's talk about some individual players you should be looking out for as well. The first of these two groups of players are ones that I've heard people bring up as potential candidates for being top 20 players in the current landscape of the game. Fiction is for sure a name that's brought up a lot for some of his tweets, but he's also an incredibly talented player who's been pretty active so far this year at smaller events. He's at the very least stood his ground at the 20th rank from last year, with big wins over S2J, SFAT, and None, but he doesn't make the cut for some top 20 lists because of his lack of standout major performances and because of his more questionable losses. His first round of top 64 is projected to be Lod, who is a player he hasn't ever faced off against, and would be another great top win for his resume. But with a date with Leffen after that, it looks like he'll have to pick up all of his other impressive wins at the event on loser's side. So with that all in mind, don't be surprised if Fiction puts up a 9th or better finish that cements his place in the top 20 at Smash and Splash. The banning of wobbling in Texas has had a severe impact on Banana's results at locals, causing him to drop many more sets than he would have previously. But outside the local scene, he's taken some really impressive wins off of Axe, Mewtwo King, and Fiction. His potential for a deep run this weekend, unfortunately, as it often does for Icy's players, is going to require a whole lot of luck, with an early visit to losers being almost guaranteed by his aforementioned set against Michael. This area of losers he's dropping into is projected to have a lot of space these players, so it's not nearly as grim as it seems for Bananas, who's looking to retain his title as the best Icies in the world for another year, but we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out down in losers. As previously alluded to, IBDW's resume this year is incredible. Only a single loss to a player ranked below him last year, a tied head-to-head record with SFAT, and a first place finish at a decently sized regional, just to name a few accolades on his list. However, his low placements at majors might have unfortunately caused Cody to slip under your radar, but those low numbers came off of losses to 4 unarguably top 20 players. So this weekend, the Fox main is looking to change this tale of luck at majors around, first by going up 2-0 on Lucky for the year, and then hopefully by taking some more sets and losers after giving Hungrybox a run for his money. And even if he falls short here, we've got a Summit appearance to look forward to from one of Melee's fastest rising stars. That then brings us to our last group of players, competitors who have been fairly inactive recently but are going to be at Smash and Splash. The least active of these players is easily Lod, who's only been to a handful of events so far this year because of his pursuit of becoming a doctor taking up most of his time. His showing at Gommel wasn't too promising either, and it would have been pretty grim on his prospects this weekend, but his win at the Cave this week, where he beat Bob-omb, Zane, and Junebug, has assured me that he's still got it. But then again, beating players he's been able to take sets off of for years is one thing, and beating Fiction, who he's never played in bracket before, is a whole different one. So we'll have to see if this success at locals is able to translate for the Green Peach main. Icy's mains are known for their high highs and low lows, and Chu's year so far fits that to a T. His bracket story echoes Bananas that we talked about earlier, as his first set in top 64s against Pew Pew U doesn't seem too promising, but his slice in losers isn't looking as pretty as his fellow Icies. Legends Puff, Bladewise's Peach, or Amsa's Yoshi do not bode well for Chew performing up to snuff at this major, but you never really know what's going to happen with Chew or with Icies, so keep your eyes on him to see how it all unfolds. The last player we're going to highlight is None, who has had a fairly rocky 2019. He only attended his first events of the year with top players in May, and his performances at these events definitely show a lack of polish. Fiction has been taking him the task at these events, and his best win of the year being the 40th ranked Ginger is not a good look for this former top 20 player. His winner's path of Shroomed and Wizrobe combined with all the talent he'll meet on loser's side does give him tons of potential to clean up his not too pretty looking resume for the year so far, and I'm almost certain we'll be seeing him bounce back to his old self soon, if not at this event. And that about does it for this video. For more information about the stream schedule this weekend, and to take a look at the projected bracket yourself, click on the link for the Smash GG page down in the description. Also remember that the highest placing player who already hasn't been invited to Summit will be earning themselves a spot at the event with a good showing at Smash and Splash, so keep that in mind and make your predictions about who you think will secure the spot down in the comments below. Also, if you think there's anyone I missed talking about or matches you can't wait to see, let us know about them in the comments down below so we can have even more to look out for this weekend. And that about does it for me. I've been SaveAsUntitled, and I will see you guys next time.